Hello everyone, I'm Emerito Dawang. In this presentation, I discuss two important threats to coral reef ecosystem. One direct threat which is coral, coral bleaching driven by marine heat waves, and one is the direct threat overfishing. By looking at these two cases, we'll be see how both environmental and human-driven pressures harm coral reef biodiversity and the ecosystem services people and depend on. Coral bleaching occurs when coral lose their symbiotic algae, called zooxanthellae, due to thermal stress, usually during marine heat waves. Without this algae, corals lose their main source of energy and turn white. Why its direct threats? The heat stress direct affect coral physiology, causing them to expel their symbiotics and sometimes die. Effects on reef health and services. Coral mortality leads to decline in reef structure, diversity, and habitat for reef fish. Tourism industries that rely on vibrant reef lose income. Coastal protection weakens when dead reef erode. Humans' activities driving the threat, which is the main driver is human caused climate change and greenhouse gases. Emissions have increased ocean temperature and intensified marine heat waves. Consequences observed. Mass bleaching, even if the Great Barrier Reef, reduced coral cover dramatically, which major losses of free fish on tourist income.
Did you know coral can bleach? Coral bleaching occurs when coral reefs expel the algae living within their tissues due to environmental stress. Bleached corals appear white because the algae provide them with color and nutrients. Prolonged bleaching can weaken corals and make them more susceptible to disease and death.
The second one is indirect threat, which is overfishing. It's an indirect threat because it alters ecological balance rather than harming coral reef directly. How it works? Removing herbivorous fish such as parrotfish reduce grazing pressure on algae. Without these fish, algae grow unchecked, overtake, overtake corals, and prevent reef recovery. Effects on reef health and services. Coral cover decrease and algae dominate. Fish biodiversity decline, reducing food security in coastal communities. Tourism also suffers, as degraded, algal-dominated reefs are less attractive. Human activities driving the threat. Excessive fishing and sustainable methods. Destructive practices like blast fishing and cyanide fishing. And lack of fisheries management. The consequences is in part of this Caribbean, heavy overfishing of fish lead to reef shifting from coral dominance to algal dominance, causing long-term biodiversity and fisheries losses. Comparing the two threats, coral bleaching is acute and widespread, linked to a global climate event. Its severity is high, of killing large portion of reef in a short time. Overfishing is chronic, often localized, by widespread where fisheries lack management. Its severity accumulates over time, undermining of reef resilience. On biodiversity, bleaching wipes out coral directly. Overfishing disrupts ecological balance and reduces fish populations. On human communities, bleaching impact global tourism and cultural heritage, while overfishing reduce local food security and livelihoods. Solutions require both community engagement and government actions. For coral bleaching, community level, local reef stewardship and restoration, such as coral nurseries and shading projects. Policy level, global action to cut greenhouse gas emissions, implement climate adaptation strategies, and fund reef resilience program. For overfishing, community level, establish community manage marine protected areas and promote sustainable fishing practices. Policy level, enforce fisheries regulations, ban destructive methods, and supporting alternative livelihoods for fishers. Together, these solutions aims to reduce direct physiological stress and indirect ecological imbalance. In conclusion, coral reefs are under attack from both direct and indirect threats. Coral bleaching highlights the urgency of tracking climate change, while overfishing demonstrates the importance of managing local human activities. If we fail to act, millions of people who depend on reef for food, income, and protection will be at risk. But with global cooperation, local stewardship, and policy support, we can build resilience and give Reef a fighting chance to survive the century. Thank you.
Let's explore Coral's Reef. Thank you for watching. Coral reefs are a jeweled dot belt around the middle of the planet. Dr. Sylvia Earle,